It's not when you cry. It's when you press rewind. You do it all the time. When you press rewind, you do it all the time. When you press rewind, you do it all. What is up, y'all? It is TTMPPedFlowover in the building. I haven't made a podcast episode in I think it's been months, since last year probably. I feel like when I finally got to the groove of it, I was starting to move around a lot. Location was changing. I was like, until I find somewhere where I can have a consistent background I can have fun with, I'm not getting no fucking podcast started. But we're back. We're back like we never left. A lot has changed. A lot has happened. Shit, the locks has hit the back. I don't know, y'all. I'm a classified dreadhead now. Listen, I've been always told to call them locks. So we're gonna stick to that. But we finally there. Some updates. I got some new songs coming out. I have a performance actually on July 21st in Charlotte, North Carolina. I know it's fucking crazy. Time is on my side. I'm performing. I don't know. I think it's like a full 25-minute set. I don't know how long it's gonna be. But if y'all wanna pop out, I think y'all should. The ticket's gonna be in my bio, so check me out. I don't know, I'm a little nervous because I feel like this is my first time really branching out of my shell with my creativity, which is why I'm making this episode for y'all, because this journey is something that I want to take y'all along with me on. I don't know if I phrased that right, but I want to take y'all on this journey with me, and I want to be as authentic in myself as I can, and so that y'all can be authentic in yourself. Realize in this whole process, authenticity has been something that I've been fucking fighting to keep. I don't know, once you hit your mid-20s, Frank, I feel like in your mind you start thinking that you have to kind of choose who you need to be. I was starting to believe that, and I don't know, I think it's because I went to school for psychology, and I'm like, shit, I gotta be a therapist. And I didn't realize they don't teach you that the problems just keep coming, and you go home with those problems on your mind. And I realized I didn't want that to be who I was. I was making music since I was a kid, so it's one of those things where choosing to be authentic can sometimes mean that you're choosing to go against what society wants you to be, and going against what society is trying to force you into, the box. I grew up people saw okay, this person is talented, and they were still trying to put me in a box. When I was young, my mom had put me into this dance class. And I was really good too. I was dancing. You had that one song you would sing, and they loved me. But then when I got to high school, I learned about the school play, and I was like, nah, I want to be in the school play. I'm trying to be doing act. I wanted to do all types of stuff. But my mom was like, nah, you have an obligation. And it was one of those things where it wasn't authentic anymore. And I feel that stuff like that, where parents kind of see your potential and try to kind of keep you there, not realizing that experimenting with life and all of the things that comes with it is a part of being authentic. I feel like it kind of makes you no longer be authentic, because you can kind of be living this childhood fantasy that never was even yours. I don't know, I feel like being authentic really does come down to just doing what you want to do in that moment of time. Even with my creativity, there's moments where I don't want to sing, or moments when I don't want to draw, or moments when I don't even want to look fly. I just want to just be a freaking thing that just exists on earth. And I feel like that's authentic. That's who I am in that moment, because sometimes those non-existing moments kind of spark a new desire that you want, which helps to create more authenticity in yourself. I feel like authenticity means staying true to, like I said, what you want in that moment of time. Not even staying true to who you are, because I feel like there are moments when I'll make a decision based off of all my past decisions, not realizing that maybe I've changed, maybe I've gained new insight on what I like to do, and now there's a whole new bracket. Even with this podcast, I kind of came in there this first time around just wanting to give advice, but now I'm realizing I want to I don't know, the vision changes. The vision just keeps changing, and accepting that you change is being authentic. Kind of just accepting the fact that you won't be the same person even 5 seconds ago. I remember one time when I was a kid, I had decided to come to school and not really talk that day. I wanted to just have a chill day, and one of my classmates told me that I can't just choose to be quiet now because I'm talkative. Being told stuff like that creates this lack of understanding of who you can and can't be. You start to create these rules for yourself and put yourself in this box that's not even real, and it's because people put themselves in that box because of what people told them, what they choose to believe. But you have to choose to just go against that grain. Authentic art is art that just spills out. Like, you know, I love like the songs that I put like heavy blood, sweat, and tears into. But I mean, inspiration is important too, because inspiration can help lead. But I do feel like I kind of stray away from being inspired by another art. Like, I don't know, I only let other art inspire me to do art, not like inspire me on what to do. Because, you know, for example, I'm not like a draw. I like to draw and stuff like that, but it always takes me having to like draw, like look at something and then mock that, which makes me not really feel like I'm an artist. I mean, yes, I can draw, but with music I can just start from like nothing and create something, which means like that is where I can really be authentic in myself, because it's me completely. I'm not like using any kind of reference, but like I said, everyone has their own process, and I feel like understanding your process and following your process, that's being authentic. You share a moment when you felt you were truly authentic in your art. I feel like my song Catch was a very experimental song. In that song I was just like doing whatever the fuck I was thinking. Like I every kind of beat change, any kind of note, anything it was very intrusive, and I told myself, you're not going to over edit it, you're not going to overthink that. The same with like In the Morning. I felt like it was very raw and I didn't have enough time to like correct it. So, and to me those songs seem to have the best production, because it was the most raw. I didn't like look over it for weeks on end and keep changing every note and nook and cranny, because I feel like at that point you're just kind of going back into that that box again. And if it was live, you couldn't do that, you couldn't fix all that. So I'm learning, like, you know, treat the music as if I was live. Being authentic, like just being who I am, it helps the flow come better. I feel like every time I'm trying to use a reference or trying to like understand how someone else did it, it kind of takes a lot of time, and it makes me procrastinate and not even want to fucking do it, and be honest with you. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know, it puts me in this weird frequency of like force, and every time I force, it's hard to like enjoy what you're doing, and then I end up taking like a long time to even get back to the project, to be honest. How do you balance authenticity with the demands of the industry? I feel like I don't listen to what the industry wants. I feel like I just have to, I just roll and I dive and I dodge and I weave all the opinions, and I just make it. If people don't like it, then I just keep going. Like, I'm gonna just keep making it. I'm not gonna stop because of what society thinks I should do. I feel like at that point it's no longer authentic, it's expectation. And I feel like when you give people what they expect, they can't expand, you know. Sometimes they need to think it's weird until that one song that's good, and then all the songs following up to it just make sense, or it never does. Like, there's some like, you know, for example, Stephen King, he got some good books, he got some bad books, but that man's a damn, that's an author, you know what I'm saying? So some of those things where learning that you're an artist no matter what, and not listening to what other people expect you to do, because I feel like at that point you become a puppet, but like I said, if it works, it works. Like, some people, like, there are some times where, like, knowing that someone's expecting something out of me makes me do better, because I know, okay, like, people are watching, like, I gotta make it sound good. So it puts me in this really, like, it makes me go above what I even thought I could do, because I know that it's being perceived. But at that point, I still don't do what I think they want me to do. I just do it instead of not doing it, and I do it to the best of my abilities instead of not doing it. I realize you just have to be completely vulnerable. You can't even care what the fuck you can't care what anything means, and you can't question it. You have to just let whatever comes out come out. Like, there's some times where, like, I'll get a certain vibe, and like, people are, oh, it's so sad. I'm like, well, that's exactly what energy I was on, because if I didn't, then it wouldn't have been created. And you can always change it up and change the vibe, but I feel like you have to be raw and like honest, because I can hear when someone's not being it. I can hear when someone's like mocking someone else, or like when someone's not even speaking from pure experience, or when someone's just doing what they're hearing and not actually doing what they would do. Because sometimes when people go and think, what would I do, they don't actually have anything, and it makes you want to question, are you even an artist, or are you just doing what you think you should do? You know, I don't know. It's a lot of deepness that goes into it that I feel like a lot of people don't consider. And I feel like vulnerability is something that, like, if you can't let go, then you'll always be holding on to something, you know, like, and it won't be as, yeah, there was this one time where I had collabed with this one person to help me with like just getting some promos for my song. I was still kind of learning the whole process of everything, but I remember he was like telling me, oh, like, you should probably like take all this off, like, you know, I had a lot going on in his mind in terms of my aesthetic. He was trying to tell me, you know, I should probably take it all off for what we're going to do next, because it might not fit the vibe. And I don't know. It was one of those things where like I was learning like this is my brand. Like who I am and in this moment is exactly what my brand is in this moment, you know. Of course, if we're like acting, and I think it was like an acting thing, so it might not even matter. But of course, if we're like acting and I have to play a role, then I might have to strip down to like whoever is underneath all these beads. But it's like, you know, if this is who I am, like this is the person I want to present when I make my music, because this is who I am behind closed doors. I feel like you have to become that vulnerable person that's underneath that mask that you show society. I've learned, like, you know, for me, I want to be that person that's, you get to literally get a second of just being in my world for a minute type shit, like what people don't show you type thing. That to me is raw. That's real. That's that being your weird self and just letting it come out. Well, because you know, if you're in a store, you can't just be whoever you want to be. You have to be a person in the store, or confiding into person in the store rules. One time where I wanted to get this job, like that was like out the country, but in order to get the teaching job, I would have needed to like take out my beads, and like I would have had to become, I don't even know, some other person, someone that looks clean and uncut and like just thumbish. And I'm like, you know, no thanks. I feel like I'm not willing to look in the mirror every day and know that there's someone that does not look anything like this inside of me. Like, I like to, this is the inside, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to hide. Hiding is scary as fuck. And when you hide yourself, you're almost like you're stripping yourself away from the opportunity of just authenticity, that freeness, that it feels really good when you're able to be free. How do you reconnect with your authentic self when you feel disconnected? I feel like that's when you have to kind of go back into your memory file. Like sometimes that intuitive self like doesn't want to do anything. Like I have those moments of lowness, but you have to kind of dig into that file and go. Sometimes you have to do nothing. Like sometimes you do have to sit in that stillness, because but even creativity is act, but in reality we're stillness. So it's like it's okay to kind of sit in that, but you know, if it's like hard to get out of, because you want your body to see it as muscle memory. I feel like sometimes you have to take your mind as useless in that moment and just kind of let your body be, kind of go back to source, listen to music, like, you know, do things that are around that area to kind of bring you back to that peace, so that you find love in it again. Do something that's like fun around it. I feel like, you know, everything has like components. Like if you want to be like if you're like a teacher and you're not feeling motivated to like teach, you know, maybe watch a teaching movie so you can see the reasons why you're doing it in the fucking first place. Like I'm learning kind of do things that surround your niche and your thing, so that you can be consumed in it, so that when you don't even want it, it's still around you and you're reminded of who you are, even when you don't feel like you are that, you know. Be around people that uplift you and remind you of who you are underneath all that skin. Can you give an example of a piece of art that you feel is highly authentic? You know, when I was a kid, see, I don't want to be that generic motherfucker, but I'm gonna be it. When I was a kid, like 15, I was listening to like Will Smith's years ago, I dyed my hair, and then I feel so lost, so I just take my spirit to go. Bro, it was like such a weird, it's like almost I didn't like it so much to the point where I loved it. Like something that I like things that make me feel like so completely repelled that I'm compelled. I'm like, what am I listening to? But I'm not clicking away. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that is so important. Like, even with art, I love art that can make me look, and I'm like, what? But I'm at this point, I've been questioning it for so long. It's been like an hour, so I'm actually pretty intrigued. I feel like we tend to get those feelings mixed up, being intrigued, curious, and then being like repelled. And like, I don't know, sometimes I realize it's all kind of all feelings are just one. But yeah, I like music that kind of makes me wonder, but I can also understand. And I feel like that's kind of what I give off. My music's like but it also makes perfect sense. What impact does your authenticity have on your connection with your audience? I feel like people are able to see that I'm being authentic. At least that's what I've been told. I feel like you want people to just understand you through your creativity, not like when they see your creativity get reminded of everybody else's. I feel like that's kind of scary, like a little bit, when like someone hears you and they're so focused on who you remind them of that they forget who you are. You don't want to get lost in someone else's shadow, which is why it's important to just be authentic. When you're just being you, there's nothing else that replicates that, and there's nothing else. Even you see people do covers, and the cover is so unlike the original artist that the cover sometimes blows up because it's so authentic. It sounds like almost its own new song. That's the point. You want it to be something that does not exist. A lot of people keep getting it confused and doing what's trending and what's working, but they're not realizing that that's going to get lost in that box of like swimming like ghost sickles. How do you think audiences perceive authenticity in art? You know, I think they perceive it as something weird, something that just, like I said, itches the brain in the right way. I feel like we all kind of like something that doesn't make sense, because like it's not something we've seen before, and that to me is the point. We want something that does not exist. I don't know, I feel like before I thought that authenticity was just doing what everyone else is doing, like just doing it and doing it right. I thought there was like a way to do it in the right way, and I feel like that was all wrong, because me doing that way, I was getting so lost that I was forgetting what the fuck, why did I even love it in the first place? And you have to like remind yourself, like that's like, you really have to go back to source, because you don't want to forget yourself, you know? What advice would you give to other artists struggling to be authentic? Don't think you're struggling. Like, perceiving your process is already what's wrong. You have to just kind of let it be, let it flow. Like, whether it's like weird at the moment, like it's its own it's like going to the gym. You're not gonna just go there already buff as fuck. You have to like work your way up. So like, whether it's some days you can be like years in and still have a bad day, you know, and forget, you know, or have a week where you just ate like crazy and you was like, why am I even going to the gym so much? And then you go there and you're reminded, oh, this, you know, it's be in shape. You know, I feel like we all have like, you know, our own thing, and just when you're struggling to like to just be, you have to realize like that's impossible, because you're being right now. Your current existence is as authentic as it gets. So like anything beyond that is just, as long as it's coming from you and not from anyone else, there's no other way that it's not authentic. You have to just kind of like give in and believe that you are already authentic, and you're probably just perceiving it and trying to build upon that, which is beautiful, if that makes any sense. How do you stay true to your artistic vision amidst trends and fads? You have to just not watch the trends and shit. Don't even let that shit compel you to believe you have to do it. I mean, you can, of course, fun is fun, but I do feel like it's easy to get lost and not like, it's easy to get lost in what's expected. What role does personal experience play in your authenticity? It plays a huge role. You know, I spent a lot of my childhood making music, like as an outlet for fun, like due to my circumstances, and it helped me learn how to find a way to have an outlet. And I feel like having an outlet is a beautiful thing. Having somewhere where you're just being yourself, unmasked, no judgment, no expectation, just self, that's it's very important. And I feel like, I'm not trying to say you use it as a motivator, but you sometimes personal experience is the reason it's happening. Without it, there would be nothing. How do you incorporate your personal story into your art? I feel like I always try to make sure that my music sounds like how I feel. Well, not like in that. Sometimes it's not how I feel in that moment, but how I felt making the words, or how I feel in the moment, or it's like what I wanted to feel like. It's all about going back into understanding yourself and then projecting it back out to how you want it to be perceived. How do you differentiate between influence and imitation in your work? I feel like sometimes you have to let it intertwine, not overthink it. I feel like the more you try to compare and contrast, the more it becomes not your own anymore. You kind of, like I said, there's inspiration is beautiful. Like sometimes, like, I wouldn't even know how to do a Jersey Club song if I didn't hear Jersey Club. You know what I'm saying? But then it's one of those things where, like, if you're just mocking someone else's song, is it yours? Like, make sure you're kind of going back into what you want, making your music yours. Like, it has to be. And I feel like it's important to not even take from anything else. I feel like it should always be, if you had no phone, no nothing, what would you be making? And that should be what should be being made. If you only had the supplies to do what you had, like, if you only had the shit to do what you could do to, like, put out, like, what would you make? If you had no influence, if you had nothing. And to me, that's the magic. You gotta be on your Tinkerbell shit. What do you think is the relationship between authenticity and originality? I feel like authenticity is just being true to yourself, even if you're wearing other styles and other influences. You're being you, because that is what makes you you. Like, for example, like R&B makes me me. I grew up listening to R&B, so when you hear my music, you can hear the influence that it has, like, on my life, like on my music. You can hear the vibe of my life in my music. I feel like originality can mean, like, creating something from, like, that's from something that doesn't exist. I feel like when it's original, I guess they kind of intertwine. It's authentic. It's oneness. It's very selfness. It's unlike no other. I feel like it's hard to that's a good question. It's hard to kind of split those into halves. But, like, yeah, like with original, it's almost like it's like from nothing to something, whereas authenticity is just being one with self and using the matrix, using this world to reflect that. I don't know. Whereas originality is like taking from self and putting out to help contribute to what contribute to original. I don't know. How has your journey of self-discovery influenced your authenticity? It has very much. The more I become myself, the more authentic I become. The more I realize I just am me. Like, there's, like, I'm not finding who I am, or, like, I know a lot of my likes and dislikes. I know that I feel like I have a very good understanding of my creative self and myself as a whole. Like, I understand it's always changing as well. Like, I've accepted, and I, like, when it comes, I understand it's the part of the change. The more authentic I become, like, the more it's like almost like a ping pong. The more I kind of give in to my creative desires, the more of myself I become, and then the more myself I become, the more creative desires I have. It's like it's an ever-ending cycle. It's beautiful, and I feel like it only comes when you give into self. Can you share a story about a turning point in your pursuit of authenticity? Like I said, I feel like college was very hard to be authentic. It was so hard. I feel like everyone was starting to just expect certain versions of me, and I started to think I had to confide into those rules because it was people I cared about. And I feel like it was hard to be me and share me without feeling like I had to share me in, like, little, like, shot glasses. It was hard to think that I can just make music and be, like, exist in the background making my music and not, like, be side-eyed or need to be a certain person or laugh at certain jokes. It was just hard to be authentic because I was, like, giving into, like, the therapy authenticity, which is not even who I was. So yeah, that was a really hard point. And then after that, I was like, I'm just now kind of shaking off the effects of like the college expectation, and it's kind of scary. I think authenticity affects the longevity of an artist's career. I think the longer they're authentic, the longer it lasts, because you'll keep changing, so it'll keep changing. Your creativity will keep changing, and people will love that. People will feel like they're growing with your art instead of it feeling kind of like they're like watching the trends go by. I'm gonna just end that there. How do you think what is the most rewarding part of being authentic in your art? I feel like the most rewarding part is when someone actually kind of perceives it the way that I was trying to give off. Like when someone likes a part that I like the most, like definitely, like, you know, if it's a song and I'm listening to one part on repeat and someone's like, bro, this one part, I'm like, bruh, fact. Like, it's almost like they get why I made it too. And I feel like for once that they're like in my brain, I feel completely understood. And it's like a very, like, it humbles me. It makes me feel like I can keep this going. You know, because I showed I always tell the story, but like one time I had showed a friend my music and they were like, keep trying. And I was like, wow, like that's low. And I feel like, of course they probably meant like, you know, keep going, but it kind of made me wonder, like, they just don't hear why I like it so much. They don't hear it amazing. So when someone can hear it and understand it well, it does feel good. It makes me, but I don't need that. Because like I said, it shocks me. It honestly catches me off guard when they do. How do you respond to feedback that challenges your authenticity? I kind of just keep it going. I keep it pushing. I always remind myself that like I have the right to this experience, and then I take their advice sometimes and I keep it going. I realize sometimes they do really be trying to help, and sometimes, like, even if they aren't trying to help, you can use that to your advantage. How does authenticity influence the messages and themes in your work? I feel like they end up telling their own story, which is beautiful. It ends up telling a story that if I wasn't being authentic, I would have to try to find out what the story is supposed to be. But I realized a lot of times, and I kind of zoomed out. When I zoom out, it all kind of intertwines with each other. It's like almost like it's just yourself, and you're your own story. So like it all kind of makes sense when you tie it up. What role does self-awareness play in maintaining authenticity? It's a big one. You have to understand who you are, because if you don't, it's very easy to get influenced, and it will change your authenticity, and it'll become expectation. It will become what was expected. So like being aware of what you want and your goals, it will kind of keep everything kind of flowing, because you can get easily influenced and easily kind of lost if you forget what your authenticity is even about. You know, how do you stay inspired and authentic and constantly changing? I don't know. I feel like I just try new things. Like I try to try new things within my creativity and do things that I would have never done before. Like I feel like that's the best way to even evolve in your creativity, is just by trying new things. And that's where you can kind of get influenced, see what other people are doing that you haven't tried before, and then do it yourself and kind of learn new processes and understand that there's different ways to go about yourself. How do you see the power and authenticity in shaping the future? I feel like being authentic helps people be able to be themselves. It influences people to just try to, and make them realize that maybe it's not so hard to just be yourself. And that's a powerful message. So being authentic in your art and pushing to make the world see it, no matter what opinion is, it allows for other people to have the guts and the courage to do it too. I've literally watched people like give in to who they were inside because they see that I finally said fucking and just made music, and now they are giving a shot at their own goals and careers. And that's important, because you're almost setting up a path of success, happiness, and abundance for other people as well as yourself. Honestly, like, I just feel like don't be afraid. Like, allow yourself to be whoever you are in every moment, and understand that everything happens for a reason. Even if it doesn't feel like it, it's all lining up to help teach you and help you grow. And I had to learn to kind of give in and kind of sit back and relax, because I used to be somebody that needed predictability and understanding of even self, and it was holding me back from my true authentic self. So give in, and I will see y'all next time on TTMPPed Flowover.